Daniel Wright stared at the contract on his data pad and signed it without reading the fine print. What did it matter anymore? The doctors had given him 6 months, maybe 7 if he was unlucky. The radiation poisoning had finally caught up with him after 30 years of hauling cargo through deep space. His cells were breaking down, and there was nothing the medical centers on Earth could do about it. The property dealer, unnamed, seemed too eager to complete the transaction. His 3 eyes kept darting toward the door of his small office on the orbital station above VII. The scales had a nervous shimmer to them. "You understand the station has no life support in most sections?" asked for the 3rd time. "No maintenance for at least 200 years, maybe more." "I understand," Daniel said. His voice was rough from the coughing fits that had become more frequent. "How much?" 15,000 credits. Claws clicked against his desk. Final offer, non-refundable. Daniel transferred the money. It was almost everything he had saved from a lifetime of work. The processed the transaction so fast that Daniel barely saw his claws move across the console. Within seconds, the deed transferred to Daniel's name and was already standing up. "Good luck, human," the said, already heading for the door. "The shuttle coordinates are in your file." Daniel watched him leave and wondered what the alien knew that he did not. But it did not matter. He had what he wanted, a place far from Earth, far from the hospitals and the pitying looks from former crew members, a place where he could spend his final months in peace. The shuttle ride down to VII took 3 hours. The moon was small and cold, with barely enough atmosphere to register on the sensors. Daniel could see them from orbit. It sat alone on a flat plain of gray rock, surrounded by nothing but craters and dust. The building was massive, far larger than he expected from the listing. The central tower rose at least 50 stories high, with 6 arms spreading out from the center like a giant metal spider. The shuttle's computer guided him to a landing pad that looked stable enough. When Daniel stepped out, his boots crunched on the ancient dust. The gravity was light, about 60% of Earth normal. That would be easier on his failing body. The main airlock still worked, which surprised him. The door opened with a groan of metal that had not moved in centuries. Inside, the air was stale but breathable. Emergency lights flickered on as Daniel walked through the corridors. Someone had left the backup power running, though he could not imagine why. The station was enormous. Daniel spent the first day just exploring the main section. He found living quarters, storage rooms, and what looked like administrative offices. Everything was covered in thick dust. The furniture was strange, designed for a species he did not recognize. The chairs were too wide and too low. The doorways were taller than human standard. He set up his small camp in what looked like a control room. The windows gave him a view of the landing pad and the empty plain beyond. Daniel unpacked his supplies. Food for 6 months, water recyclers, medical supplies that would help with the pain but not stop the inevitable, and a collection of old books on a data reader, stories he had never had time to read during his working years. On the second day, Daniel decided to explore deeper. He had noticed something odd about the station layout. According to the blueprints in the main computer, there should be only 3 levels below the control room. But when he counted the floors from outside, there were at least 10 levels underground. He found a service elevator that still had power. The buttons inside went down much further than the blueprint showed. Daniel pressed the lowest button and felt the elevator descend for nearly 5 minutes. When the doors opened, he stood in a corridor that looked completely different from the upper levels. This section was clean, no dust. The lights were bright and steady. The air smelled fresh, like it was being filtered through active systems. Daniel walked carefully, his hand on the plasma torch he carried for emergencies. The corridor stretched ahead for at least 200 meters before ending at a large sealed door. The door had markings on it, symbols that his translator could not read. They looked almost human, but not quite. Daniel ran his fingers over the carved metal and felt something click. A panel slid open next to the door, revealing a hand scanner. Without thinking, he placed his palm against it. The door opened. Daniel stepped through and stopped breathing. He stood at the edge of a hangar so large he could not see the far wall, and the hangar was full of ships, not empty or rusted. These ships gleamed under preservation fields that shimmered around each vessel. He counted at least 20 ships, and those were just the ones he could see from the doorway. The ships were unlike anything in the Galactic Council database. They had smooth hulls with strange angles. Human letters and numbers marked their sides. Daniel walked closer to the nearest one. The name painted on the hull read, Colonial Seed 7. His hands shook as he pulled out his data pad and tried to scan the ship. The readings made no sense. The technology was advanced, far beyond what the Council used. But the design was human, definitely human. Daniel knew enough about ship construction to recognize Earth engineering when he saw it. A warning alarm suddenly blared through the hangar. Daniel jumped and nearly dropped his pad. Red lights began flashing along the walls. He ran back toward the elevator, but the corridor lights had changed to emergency red as well. A voice spoke in a language he did not understand, but his translator finally caught up and started converting the words. Warning, unscheduled approach detected, defense systems activating. Warning, unscheduled approach detected. Daniel reached the control room and looked out the windows. His heart nearly stopped. A ship was descending toward the landing pad, not a small shuttle like his. This was a massive vessel at least 300 meters long. Its design matched the ships in the hangar below. Human letters marked its hull, Pioneer's Dream. The ship landed with perfect precision, as if the pilot knew every centimeter of the pad. Daniel watched in shock as a docking tube extended from the ship to the main airlock. He stood frozen, unable to move or think clearly. Who could be piloting a ship like that? Where did it come from? And why was it here? His communicator crackled to life. A woman's voice came through, speaking clear English with an accent Daniel had only heard in old historical recordings. Outpost 7, this is Captain Elizabeth of the Colonial Fleet. I'm coming home. Daniel stared at the ship and then at the communicator in his hand. Colonial Fleet. That name meant nothing to him. Earth had only joined the Galactic Council 3 years ago. There was no colonial fleet. There never had been. The airlock at the far end of the control room began to cycle. Someone was coming through. Daniel backed up against the window, his mind racing. He had come here to die alone, in peace. But now someone was claiming this station. Someone who spoke English from centuries ago and flew a ship that should not exist. The airlock door opened, and Daniel got his first look at Captain Elizabeth. She looked young, maybe in her early 30s, with short dark hair and sharp green eyes that took in everything about the room in one quick glance. She wore a uniform that Daniel had only seen in history books, the kind Earth military used before first contact with aliens. But the uniform looked fresh, not ancient. The woman herself looked tired but alert, like someone who had just finished a very long journey. Elizabeth stopped when she saw Daniel. Her eyes went wide with surprise. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she looked around the dusty control room and back at him. "You're human," she said. It was not a question, but she sounded confused. "What are you doing on my station?" Daniel found his voice. "Your station, I bought this place, I have the deed." "You bought it?" Elizabeth walked closer, studying him with those sharp eyes. "From who? This is a colonial fleet outpost. It's not for sale." "I bought it from a dealer 2 days ago," Daniel said. He pulled out his data pad and showed her the contract. "It's legal, registered with the Galactic Council." Elizabeth took the pad and read the contract. Her face went pale. "Galactic Council, what year is it?" 2387, Daniel said. "By Earth standard." Elizabeth sat down heavily in one of the dusty chairs. She was silent for a long time, just staring at the floor. When she looked up, Daniel saw something in her eyes that looked like grief. 417 years, she whispered. I've been gone for 417 years. Daniel did not know what to say. He watched as Elizabeth stood up and walked to the window. She looked out at her ship and the empty plain beyond. I need you to tell me what happened, she said quietly. Tell me about Earth. Tell me about first contact. Tell me everything. So Daniel told her. He explained how Earth had discovered alien life 40 years ago when a Council exploration ship entered the solar system. How humanity had been far behind in technology and had to accept junior membership in the Council. How human expansion was limited by treaties and regulations. How Earth was just another small species now, nothing special. Elizabeth listened without interrupting. When Daniel finished, she turned away from the window. Tears ran down her face, but her voice was steady. We were supposed to change that, she said. The first wave, 12 ships, each carrying 15,000 colonists in sleep. We left Earth in 1970 with technology that was supposed to give humanity a head start. We were going to claim the galaxy before anyone else could stop us. Daniel felt his mouth go dry. 1970, but Earth didn't have space flight technology like that in 1970. We did, Elizabeth said. The colonial project was secret. The best scientists, the best engineers working on technology the public never knew about. We built ships that could cross the galaxy. We developed that could last for centuries. We were humanity's future. She walked over to the main console and placed her hand on it. The screens lit up, responding to her touch. Data began scrolling across the displays, information in a format Daniel did not recognize. This station was Outpost 7, Elizabeth continued. We established 7 outposts across this sector. Each one was supposed to serve as a waypoint for the colony ships. We would wake up, check the systems, and continue to our final destinations. She paused, her hands gripping the edge of the console. But something went wrong. We got separated. I've been searching for the other ships for centuries. Daniel tried to understand what she was saying. Centuries? How are you still alive? Elizabeth said, I spend most of my time frozen. I wake up every 10 or 20 years, search for my fleet, then go back to sleep. I've been doing this for over 400 years. She looked at him closely for the first time, really seeing him. You're sick. Radiation poisoning. Daniel nodded. 6 months left, maybe less. Come with me, Elizabeth said. She headed for the door. There's something you need to see. Daniel followed her to the elevator. Elizabeth pressed the lowest button without hesitation, and they descended into the clean corridors below. She led him through the door Daniel had opened earlier and into the massive hangar. These are colony ships, Elizabeth said, gesturing at the vessels under the preservation fields. Each one carries 15,000 people in sleep. They've been here for over 400 years, waiting for me to come back and wake them. Daniel stared at the ships, 45,000 people sleeping for centuries. Are they still alive? Yes. Elizabeth walked to the nearest ship and placed her hand on a control panel. The preservation field flickered and a screen appeared showing life signs. Thousands of green dots, each one a sleeping human. The systems are stable. They'll stay that way for another 1,000 years if necessary. She turned to face Daniel. But I'm not going to make them wait that long. I came back here to wake them, to continue the mission. She paused. And I'm going to save your life while I'm at it. What? Daniel shook his head. There's no cure for radiation poisoning like mine. Not even Council medicine can fix it. Council medicine can't, Elizabeth agreed. But first-wave medicine can. These colony ships have medical bays designed to treat deep space radiation exposure. Our crews spent years in space between Earth and the outposts. We had to be able to fix radiation damage. She started walking toward the nearest ship. It will take a few days, but I can heal you. Daniel felt something he had not felt in months. Hope. It hurt worse than the pain in his bones. Why would you help me? I'm a stranger. You don't know me. Elizabeth stopped and looked back at him. Because you're human. Because I didn't spend 4 centuries searching for my people just to let one of them die when I can save him. She smiled, but it was sad. And because I need your help, I've been alone for a very long time. They entered the colony ship through an access port. Inside, everything was pristine. The ship had been sealed in the preservation field, protected from time and decay. Elizabeth led Daniel through corridors that looked brand new, past rooms full of equipment he did not recognize, until they reached the medical bay. The room was large and filled with advanced machines. Elizabeth guided Daniel to a bed in the center and had him lie down. She moved around the room with practiced efficiency, turning on systems and running diagnostic scans. "This will take about 3 days," she said as she worked. "The treatment is intensive. It will break down the damaged cells and rebuild them. It's not pleasant, but it works." Daniel watched her prepare the machines. "What happened to your fleet? You said something went wrong." Elizabeth's hands paused on the controls. "We were attacked. Someone or something hit us while we were in deep space. I don't know who or what it was. The weapons didn't match anything in our database." She continued setting up the equipment. "Admiral Cross, our fleet commander, ordered us to scatter. Emergency protocol. Each ship jumped to random coordinates to escape, but the attacker was smart. They hit multiple ships at once. By the time we got away, half the fleet was gone." "Gone?" Daniel asked. "Destroyed or captured, I don't know." Elizabeth attached sensors to Daniel's chest. "I've spent centuries trying to find the survivors. I've located 3 other outposts. 2 were empty, abandoned. 1 had been destroyed completely. No survivors, no ships." She met his eyes. "You're the first human I've spoken to in over 100 years." The machines around Daniel began to hum. He felt a tingling sensation spread through his body. "Sleep now," Elizabeth said softly. "When you wake up, you'll feel worse before you feel better, but I promise you will get better." Daniel's eyes grew heavy. As he drifted off, he heard Elizabeth moving around the medical bay. The last thing he saw was her standing at a console, pulling up data on the screens. And the last thing he heard was her voice, barely a whisper. "Someone knew about us. Someone attacked the first wave, and the Galactic Council has been hiding it for centuries." Then Daniel slept, and in his dreams, he saw ships burning in the darkness between stars. Daniel woke up screaming. His entire body felt like it was on fire. Every nerve burned with pain he had never imagined possible. He tried to sit up, but restraints held him down on the medical bed. Through his blurred vision, he saw Elizabeth standing next to him. "I know it hurts," she said, her voice calm. "Your body is rebuilding itself at the cellular level. Just breathe through it." Daniel wanted to curse at her, but he could not form words. The pain went on for hours or maybe days. Time lost meaning. Sometimes he would black out, and when he woke, Elizabeth was always there. She would check the machines, adjust settings, and talk to him about nothing important. Her voice became an anchor in the sea of agony. On the 3rd day, the pain began to fade. Daniel woke up feeling weak but clear-headed. Elizabeth helped him sit up and drink water. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Like I got hit by a ship," Daniel said. His voice was rough but stronger than before. "But better. The pain in my chest is gone, the tightness in my lungs." Elizabeth smiled. "The radiation damage is repaired. Your cells are healthy again. You'll need a few days to build up your strength, but you're going to live." She handed him a data pad. "Your scans are here if you want to see them. You're healthier than most humans your age." Daniel looked at the scans and felt tears on his face. He had accepted death, made peace with it, and now he had a future again. He did not know whether to laugh or cry, so he did both. Over the next few days, Daniel recovered his strength while Elizabeth showed him around the station. The outpost was massive, much larger than it appeared from outside. There were living quarters for thousands, laboratories, manufacturing facilities, and storage bays full of supplies. Everything a colony would need to survive and grow. "We built these outposts to last forever." Elizabeth explained as they walked through a garden level where plants still grew under artificial lights. Self-sufficient, self-repairing. The plan was to use them as stepping stones across the galaxy. Each outpost would support multiple colonies in nearby systems. Daniel touched one of the growing plants, a tomato vine heavy with red fruit. So what happened? Why did the council hide all this? That's what we need to find out, Elizabeth said. She led him to a secure room deep in the station where banks of computers lined the walls. I've been going through the archives while you recovered. The station automatically recorded every ship that approached over the centuries, and what I found is disturbing. She brought up a display showing ship signatures and dates. Daniel saw hundreds of entries spanning more than 2 centuries. The first council ship visited this station 90 years after we established it, Elizabeth said. An exploration vessel. They scanned the station but didn't enter. 10 years later, they came back with more ships. This time they did enter. She highlighted specific entries. They found the colony ships. They found the sleeping humans. And they classified this entire station as a restricted site. Why? Daniel asked. Fear, Elizabeth said. Look at the technology in these ships. Look at what we built. The first wave had technology that was centuries ahead of what Earth would develop naturally. If we had succeeded, if we had established colonies across the galaxy, humanity would have been the dominant species. The Council couldn't allow that. Daniel felt anger building in his chest. So they just left 45,000 people to sleep forever. Not just here, Elizabeth said. She pulled up more data. I've been cross-referencing the Council databases you have access to as a citizen. I found classified references to other first-wave sites. At least 4 other outposts were discovered and sealed. That's potentially 120,000 humans in sleep, hidden away and forgotten. We have to tell someone, Daniel said. Earth needs to know about this. It's not that simple. Elizabeth brought up legal documents. According to Council law, these outposts are considered dangerous per-contact facilities. The sleeping colonists are classified as temporal hazards. If we try to wake them without Council approval, they could declare it an act of aggression. Daniel sat down heavily. So we're trapped. We know the truth, but we can't do anything about it. I didn't say that, Elizabeth said. She had a determined look in her eyes. I've been thinking about this for days. We need proof. Real evidence that the Council deliberately hid the first wave and covered up the attack on our fleet. If we can prove that, we might have leverage. Where do we find proof? Admiral Cross, Elizabeth said. She typed commands into the console. He was the fleet commander. He died when his ship was destroyed, but before that happened, he sent emergency messages to all the outposts. I never received mine because I was already scattered and lost, but the station would have recorded it. The screen filled with data streams. Elizabeth worked quickly, searching through centuries of archived messages. Finally, she found what she was looking for. Here, she said, received 416 years ago, encrypted with first-wave command codes. I'm the only one who can open it. She entered her authorization and the screen changed. An image appeared showing a man in a colonial fleet uniform. He looked exhausted and injured. Blood ran down the side of his face. Behind him, alarms were flashing. This is Admiral Richard Cross to all outpost commanders, the recorded message began. We are under attack. I repeat, we are under attack. The enemy is using weapons technology we have never seen. They hit 6 ships simultaneously before we could react. The image shook as an explosion rocked the Admiral's ship. He steadied himself and continued. I am ordering all ships to scatter according to emergency protocol. Get the colonists to safety. Protect them at all costs. He paused, looking directly at the camera. Whoever finds this message needs to know the truth. This was not an accident. This was not a random attack. Someone knew about the first wave. Someone knew exactly when and where we would be. They were waiting for us. Daniel felt ice in his stomach. A trap. On the screen, Admiral Cross nodded as if answering his question. "We were betrayed. I don't know by who or why, but the attack was planned. They wanted to stop humanity from expanding." Another explosion. The Admiral gripped his chair. "And if you're seeing this message, it means they succeeded. The first wave is broken. The colonists are scattered." The Admiral's expression hardened. "But we are not defeated. If you find this, wake the colonists. Complete the mission. Show the galaxy what humanity can do." He leaned closer to the camera. "And trust no one, especially not the species that now dominate the stars. They may have been the ones who attacked us." The message ended. Daniel and Elizabeth sat in silence, staring at the blank screen. "He thought the Council species attacked the first wave," Daniel finally said. "Maybe they did," Elizabeth said quietly. "Think about it. Humanity develops advanced technology in secret, launches a fleet to colonize the galaxy, and then someone with advanced weapons destroys that fleet before it can succeed. 40 years later, when Earth makes contact, humanity is primitive and easy to control." She turned to Daniel. "The timing is convenient." Daniel wanted to argue, but the evidence was hard to ignore. "So what do we do?" "We search for more proof," Elizabeth said, "and we prepare for the possibility that the Council will try to stop us when they find out what we know." She stood up and walked to another console. "The station has defense systems that are still functional, first-wave weapons technology. I'm going to bring them online, and I'm going to start waking up some of the colonists. We might need help soon." "What kind of help?" Daniel asked. Elizabeth's expression was grim, "The kind that can fight back if we have to." Over the next week, Elizabeth worked on the station systems while Daniel helped where he could. She taught him about first-wave technology and explained how the colony ships worked. Daniel found himself fascinated by the advanced designs. These ships could do things that modern Council vessels could not even attempt. Elizabeth decided to wake a small security team first. She chose carefully, selecting people with military training and leadership experience. The first person she woke was a man named Jack, a lieutenant who had commanded one of the fleet's marine units. Jack's awakening was hard to watch. He came out of sleep confused and disoriented. When Elizabeth told him how long he had been asleep, he did not believe her at first. Then she showed him the evidence, and Daniel watched the man's face go through shock, denial, and finally grim acceptance. 417 years, Jack said. He sat on the edge of the medical bed, his head in his hands. "Everyone I knew is dead. The world I left is gone." "Yes," Elizabeth said simply, "but the mission isn't over. Those colonists in the ships below are still depending on us." Jack looked up at her. "What do you need me to do, Captain?" "I need you to wake your team," Elizabeth said. 10 people to start. We may have trouble coming and we need to be ready." Jack stood up straight, and Daniel saw the soldier take over from the confused man. "Understood. Give me access to the personnel files." As Jack left to begin waking his team, Daniel pulled Elizabeth aside. "Do you really think there will be trouble?" Elizabeth looked out at the hangar full of sleeping colonists. "I don't know, but Admiral Cross warned us to trust no one, and someone sold you this station knowing you were human. Someone wanted a human to find this place." She met his eyes. "The question is why?" Answer came 3 days later. Daniel was in the control room when the sensors detected an approaching ship. He immediately called Elizabeth, who arrived running with Jack right behind her. The lieutenant had successfully woken his team, and they had spent the last days learning how the station worked and training with the ancient weapon systems. "Council patrol ship," Elizabeth said, reading the sensor data. "Design military grade." "They found us," Jack said. He was already checking the defense systems. "Should we power up weapons?" "Not yet," Elizabeth said. "Let's see what they want first." The ship moved into orbit and sent a communication request. Elizabeth accepted it, and a holographic image appeared in the control room. The alien commander had 4 arms, gray-scaled skin, and eyes that could look in different directions at once. When he spoke, His voice came through the translator. "Attention, unidentified station. This is Commander of the Defense Fleet. You are occupying a restricted council site. Identify yourselves immediately." Elizabeth stepped forward. "I am Captain Elizabeth of the Earth Colonial Fleet. This is Outpost 7, which I established 417 years ago. I am the legal owner of this facility." His eyes all focused on her at once. "Impossible. This site was declared abandoned over 300 years ago. It is council property." "This site was never abandoned," Elizabeth said. Her voice was hard. "It was stolen. The council found my station and classified it as restricted to hide the truth about the first wave." "You are speaking nonsense," said, but Daniel noticed the commander seemed nervous. "I am ordering you to evacuate immediately. This facility will be secured by council forces." "And I am refusing," Elizabeth said. "This human next to me is Daniel Wright. He legally purchased this station from a council-approved dealer 2 weeks ago. The deed is registered and valid. We are not leaving." Scales changed color, darkening with anger. "I do not care about your papers. This is a matter of galactic security. You will comply or face military action." Jack moved his hand to the weapons console. Elizabeth shook her head slightly, telling him to wait. "If you attack us, you will be attacking illegal human property," Elizabeth said. "That would be an act of war against Earth." "Earth will not go to war over an illegal squatter," said. "You have 1 hour to evacuate. After that, I will board the station by force." The communication cut off. Elizabeth turned to Jack. "How long to get the weapons online?" "They're already online," Jack said with a grim smile. "My team has been preparing since the ship entered sensor range." "Show me what we have," Elizabeth ordered. Jack pulled up the defense grid on the main display. Daniel watched in amazement as targeting systems, energy weapons, and missile batteries appeared on the screens. The station had enough firepower to destroy a small fleet. "First-wave military technology," Jack explained. "These weapons are at least 200 years more advanced than anything the Council uses. That patrol ship won't know what hit it." "We can't start a war," Daniel said. "If we destroy a Council ship, they'll send more. Eventually, they'll overwhelm us." "He's right," Elizabeth said, "but we can't let them take the station either. If they do, we'll never get it back, and those colonists will sleep forever." She thought for a moment. "We need to buy time, and we need to let Earth know what's happening here." "Earth is 3 weeks away at standard speed," Jack said. "Even if we send a message now, help won't arrive in time." Elizabeth smiled. "I'm not talking about standard speed, and I'm not talking about help. I'm talking about witnesses." She sat down at the communications console and began typing. "I'm going to send a message to Earth and every human colony in the Council, not through official channels. Direct broadcast. Everyone with a receiver will hear it." "The Council will try to block it," Daniel said. "They can try," Elizabeth said. "But first-wave communication systems use quantum entanglement. They can't block it without shutting down their entire communication network." She finished typing and looked at Jack. "Get your team ready. If tries to board, we stop him. Non-lethal if possible, but we do not let him take this station." Jack nodded and left to brief his team. Daniel watched Elizabeth prepare the broadcast. "What are you going to say?" "The truth," Elizabeth said. "All of it, the first wave, the attack, the Council cover-up, everything." She looked at him. "This is going to cause problems, big problems. Are you ready for that?" Daniel thought about his life before coming to this station. He had been ready to die, alone and forgotten. Now he was part of something important, something that could change humanity's future. "Yes," he said, "I'm ready." Elizabeth sent the broadcast. It went out across the galaxy in seconds, faster than light, impossible to stop. Daniel listened as her voice carried the message to every human in Council space. She explained the first wave mission. She showed evidence of the Council's cover-up. She revealed the 45,000 colonists sleeping in the hangar below, and she made a demand. Humanity deserved to know its true history and reclaim what was taken from them. The response was immediate. Within an hour, Daniel's communicator was flooded with messages from humans across the galaxy. Support, questions, outrage, and something he had not expected: ships were coming. Civilian vessels, cargo haulers, even some small defense boats. Humans were heading toward station. Called back, and this time he looked furious. "What have you done? You are creating chaos. I am authorizing immediate military action." "Go ahead," Elizabeth said calmly. "But know that every action you take is being broadcast live across the galaxy. The whole council will watch you attack unarmed humans on their own property." The commander cut the communication. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then Jack's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, we have incoming ships. Multiple signatures. Not, these are human." Elizabeth and Daniel rushed to the window. Daniel could see lights in the sky as ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 1, then 3, then 10. Within an hour, there were over 50 human vessels surrounding the station. They were not military ships. They were traders, explorers, families who had heard the broadcast and come to help. One of the ships sent a communication. "Station, this is the cargo hauler Morning Star. We heard your message, Captain. We're here to make sure the Council doesn't take what's ours." More voices joined in, a chorus of humans declaring their support. Daniel felt something he had not felt since leaving Earth: pride, hope, unity. Called again, and this time he was not alone. A second hologram appeared next to him, showing a female with silver skin and intelligent eyes. "I am Ambassador N of the Collective," she said. Her voice was smooth and diplomatic. "Captain, Commander has informed me of the situation. I am here to negotiate a peaceful resolution." "I'm listening," Elizabeth said. "The Council acknowledges that mistakes were made in the past," N said. "However, the first-wave colonists represent a complex legal and social challenge. We propose that you surrender the station and the colonists to Council custody. In return, we will ensure they are treated fairly and integrated into modern society, and Mr. Wright will receive compensation for his purchase." "What about the attack on the first wave?" Daniel asked. "What about the cover-up?" N's expression did not change. "The Council will conduct an investigation into these allegations. If wrongdoing is found, appropriate actions will be taken." "That's not good enough," Elizabeth said. "Those colonists are my responsibility. I won't hand them over to the people who hid them for centuries." "Then we have a problem," N said. "Because the Council cannot allow first-wave technology and personnel to operate independently. You represent a threat to galactic stability." "Or a threat to Council control," Jack said from behind Elizabeth. N's eyes flickered toward him. "This situation must be resolved. I am offering you 24 hours to consider our proposal. After that, the Council will take action, regardless of the consequences." The communication ended. Elizabeth stood silent for a moment, then turned to Daniel and Jack. "They're scared," she said. "If we wake all the colonists and give them access to first-wave technology, humanity becomes a major power overnight. The Council can't allow that." "So what do we do?" Daniel asked. Before Elizabeth could answer, an alarm sounded. Jack ran to the sensors. "We have another ship incoming. Big one, not broadcasting any identification." The ship dropped out of faster-than-light right next to the station. It was enormous, easily twice the size of the Pioneer's Dream, but it was dark, showing no lights or power signatures. "It's broadcasting something," Jack said. He worked the console. "Some kind of automated message, old protocol, first-wave codes." Elizabeth went pale. "Play it." A voice came through the speakers. It was distorted by time and damage, but the words were clear. "This is Automated Beacon 117 from Colonial Seed 3. If you are receiving this message, you have found one of our outposts. We were attacked. Our sister ships are in danger. Following our coordinates to other outpost locations. Wake the fleet. They are still hunting us." The message ended, and a stream of data appeared on the screen. Coordinates: 6 different locations across the galaxy. Elizabeth stared at the data, her hands shaking. "Someone sent that ship here. Someone wanted us to find those coordinates." "Who?" Daniel asked. "I don't know," Elizabeth said, "but they're right about one thing. Someone is still hunting the first wave, and now they know we're here." Daniel stared at the coordinates on the screen. 6 locations. 6 more outposts like this one. Potentially thousands more colonists sleeping in the darkness. And someone had sent them these coordinates now, just when the Council was trying to shut them down. "It's a message," Elizabeth said softly. "Someone wants us to find the other outposts before the Council does." "Or it's a trap," Jack said. He was studying the data carefully. "That ship appeared at a very convenient time, right when we need a reason to refuse the Council's offer." "Trap or not, we have to investigate," Elizabeth said. "If there are more colonists out there, I can't abandon them." "We might not have a choice," Daniel said. He pointed at the sensor display showing the Council ships. "N gave us 24 hours. After that, they'll attack. We can't hold off the entire Council fleet." Elizabeth was quiet for a long moment. Then she smiled, but it was not a happy smile. It was the smile of someone who had made a difficult decision. "We don't need to hold off the entire fleet," she said. "We just need to make them think twice about attacking us." She turned to Jack. "How many colonists can we wake in 24 hours?" Jack checked his data pad. "If we use all 3 ships' medical bays at maximum capacity, maybe 200 people. Any more than that risks complications from the sleep." "Do it," Elizabeth ordered. "Wake the best pilots, engineers, and tactical officers we have. And wake the diplomats too. We're going to need them." Jack left to begin the process. Elizabeth turned to Daniel. "I need you to do something important. Contact every human ship out there. Tell them what we're planning. Some of them won't like it. Some might leave. But the ones who stay will need their help." "What are we planning?" Daniel asked. Elizabeth pulled up a star map and marked the 6 coordinates from the beacon. "We're going to search for those outposts, all of them, but we can't do it alone. We need the Council to back off long enough for us to find the other colonists and wake them." "How do we make that happen?" "By giving them something they want more than control," Elizabeth said. "Knowledge." Over the next 24 hours, the station transformed into a hive of activity. The awakened colonists were confused and angry at first, but Elizabeth and Jack explained the situation. These were professional people, trained for exactly this kind of crisis. They adapted quickly. Daniel spent hours talking to the human ships surrounding the station. He explained Elizabeth's plan. Some captains thought it was crazy. A few left, deciding the risk was too great, but most stayed. They understood what was at stake. When N called again, exactly 24 hours later, she looked surprised to see so many people in the control room behind Elizabeth. "Captain, have you considered our offer?" the ambassador asked. "I have," Elizabeth said, "and I'm making a counteroffer. The Council wants to prevent first-wave technology from destabilizing the galaxy. I understand that concern, so here's what I propose. We share everything." N's silver face showed confusion. "Share what?" "All of it," Elizabeth said. "First-wave technology, ship designs, medical advances, agricultural techniques, everything we developed. We'll give it to the entire Council freely with no restrictions." There was silence on the other end of the communication. Finally, N spoke. "In exchange for what?" "3 things," Elizabeth said. "First, you recognize the legal ownership of all first-wave outposts by their original crews and any humans who have purchased them. Second, you allow us to search for and wake the remaining colonists without interference. Third, you conduct a real investigation into the attack on the first wave with human oversight." That is a considerable demand, N said. It's a fair trade, Elizabeth replied. The technology we're offering is worth trillions of credits. It will advance every species in the Council by decades, maybe centuries. Medical treatments that can cure diseases you haven't solved. Energy systems that are more efficient than anything you use. Manufacturing techniques that will revolutionize your industries. She paused. All of it free, in exchange for letting humanity reclaim what was ours. N was silent for a long time. Daniel could see her thinking, calculating. Finally, she said, I need to consult with the council leadership. This decision is beyond my authority. You have 6 hours, Elizabeth said. After that, we're leaving to search for the other outposts with or without council approval. The communication ended. The waiting began. Daniel found Elizabeth in the hangar looking at the colony ships. Do you think they'll accept? He asked. I don't know, she admitted. The technology sharing is appealing, but some species will see it as humanity becoming too powerful. They'll argue against it. What if they say no? Elizabeth turned to face him. Then we fight. We use these ships and head for the coordinates. Some of us will make it. Maybe we'll find the other outposts. Maybe we'll wake enough colonists to force the council to negotiate. She smiled sadly. Or maybe we'll die trying, but we won't surrender. The first wave didn't come this far to give up now. Daniel understood. These people had sacrificed everything for their mission. They had slept for centuries, lost their entire world, and still they would not quit. It was the most human thing he had ever seen. 3 hours later, N called back. This time, she was not alone. Behind her stood representatives from a dozen different species. Some Daniel recognized from council meetings he had seen on the news. These were the leaders who made the real decisions. Captain, N said formally, the council has reviewed your proposal. There was significant debate. Elizabeth stood straight, ready for anything. Daniel held his breath. However, N continued, we have decided to accept your terms with modifications. Daniel felt his heart jump. Elizabeth's face remained calm, but he saw her hands relax slightly. The modifications, Elizabeth asked. First, the technology sharing will be done gradually over a period of 5 years to allow proper integration and prevent economic disruption, N said. Second, the investigation into the first wave attack will be conducted by an independent commission including human members. Third, any awakened colonists will have the right to choose whether to integrate into modern society or continue the original colonial mission. But any new colonies must be established according to current council regulations. And the outposts, Elizabeth asked, are recognized as human property, N confirmed. You may search for and wake any remaining colonists. The council will provide assistance if requested. Elizabeth looked at Daniel, then at Jack and the other awakened colonists. Daniel saw nods around the room. She turned back to N. We accept, Elizabeth said. The formal agreements took another week to finalize. Lawyers and diplomats from both sides argued over every detail. But in the end, the deal held. Humanity would share its advanced technology in exchange for the freedom to reclaim its lost colonies. During that week, Elizabeth continued waking colonists. By the end, over 500 people were awake and helping run the station. They were engineers, scientists, teachers, and families who had volunteered for the first wave mission. Now they faced a galaxy that had moved on without them. Daniel helped where he could. He taught the colonists about the modern galaxy, about Earth's history since they left, about the Council and its politics. In return, they taught him about first-wave technology and the world they had left behind. He found himself becoming a bridge between two eras of humanity. When the legal agreements were finally signed, Elizabeth prepared the pioneer's dream for departure. She would lead an expedition to search for the other outposts, using the coordinates from the mysterious beacon. Jack and a team of security personnel would go with her. So would some of the newly awakened engineers and scientists. Daniel stood on the landing pad as they loaded supplies onto the ship. Elizabeth found him there. "You could come with us," she said. "We could use someone who knows the modern galaxy." Daniel had thought about it. Part of him wanted to go to see what they would find, but another part of him had found something here at station. "Someone needs to stay and run this place," he said. "Those colonists who are still sleeping will need help when they wake up, and there will be more humans coming here, people who want to learn about the first wave. I think I can do more good here." Elizabeth smiled. "I was hoping you'd say that. You're good at this, Daniel, bringing people together, building something new from old foundations." She held out her hand. "The station is yours. Take care of it." Daniel shook her hand. "Find them, find all of them." "I will," Elizabeth promised, "and we'll keep in touch. First wave communication systems, remember, we can talk across the galaxy in real time." She boarded her ship, and the Pioneer's Dream lifted off smoothly. Daniel watched it rise into the sky and disappear among the stars. Then he turned and walked back into the station. The control room was busy now. Awakened colonists worked alongside modern humans who had come to help. They were planning how to wake the remaining sleepers safely, how to integrate first-wave technology with modern systems, how to build a future that honored the past. A young woman approached Daniel. Her name was Helen Park, and she had been a communications officer on one of the colony ships. "Mr. Wright, we're getting messages from Earth. Lots of them. People want to come here. Scientists, historians, families of the original colonists. What should we tell them?" Daniel thought about it. 6 months ago, he had come to this place to die alone. Now he was helping build something that might last for centuries. "Tell them they're welcome," he said. "Tell them station is open, and tell them to bring their hope. We're going to need it." Over the next months, Daniel watched the station grow. More colonists woke up. Ships arrived from Earth bringing supplies and people eager to help. The Council kept its word, and the technology exchange began. Human medical techniques started saving lives across the galaxy. Human engineering improved ships and stations. Human agricultural methods increased food production on struggling worlds. And slowly, carefully, the mystery of who attacked the first wave began to unravel. The investigation found evidence of a conspiracy, but not the one anyone expected. It was not the Council species who had attacked. It was a radical group within several species who feared human expansion. They had worked in secret to destroy the first wave, then used their positions to ensure the cover-up lasted for centuries. When the truth came out, it caused shock across the galaxy. Some council members resigned. Others faced criminal charges. The betrayal cut deep, but it also brought change. New laws were passed. New protections for emerging species. New oversight to prevent such conspiracies in the future. Elizabeth called Daniel regularly, reporting her progress. She found the second outpost empty but intact. The third had been destroyed, but she recovered data that led her to a fourth location. Each discovery brought more questions and more hope. One evening, Daniel stood in the garden level, watching the tomato plants grow under the artificial lights. A young boy ran past, laughing, chased by his sister. They were the children of awakened colonists, the first generation to grow up knowing both the past and the future. An engineer named Carl Hammond joined Daniel at the observation window. Carl had been in sleep for 417 years. Now he helped maintain the station's systems. "Do you ever regret it?" Carl asked, "coming here?" Daniel thought about the question. He thought about the pain, the fear, the uncertainty. He thought about the man he had been 6 months ago, ready to die alone. "No," he said. "I came here looking for an ending, but I found a beginning instead." Carl nodded. That's what the first wave was always about. New beginnings, second chances, humanity refusing to accept limits. He smiled. "I'm glad we got to finish what we started, even if it took 417 years." Daniel watched the children play among the plants. He thought about Elizabeth searching for more colonists. He thought about the technology being shared across the galaxy. He thought about humanity finally taking its place among the stars, not as a minor species, but as a people who had earned respect through perseverance and sacrifice. He had bought an abandon to die alone, but in those quiet halls he had found 45,000 sleeping dreamers, a captain who refused to give up, and a mission that spanned centuries. He had found a reason to live. And in living, he had helped wake up humanity's future.